Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi,
Thank you
Carl.
for joining us. So I'm going to keep this very brief because Mike is much more amazing than I am, and the one you want to hear from. So Mike is CEO of Enable Injections, which was I think we've invested since our Fund One from CincyTech, so another CincyTech investment. And I think it started off mostly as an idea, and now you're at 150 plus employees in the Cincinnati area. I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong. So
180.
180. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And so Mike has an awesome story of taking sort of research meant for one thing and then finding its potential in the effort to disrupt the infusion market. So I understand you have an actual presentation you're going to share, right, Mike?
Yes. Now let me make sure I understand how to share it. So I need to go and get my IT person again. Okay.
Okay.
How do I share the presentation?
Okay. So
this is the presentation right here.
I believe it's that little box down there.
And I go to.
Not letting you share.
It's the share box. Looks like it has a red line through it.
Yep, I'm going to jump off. It should let you then share.
Okay.
So.
So let's try clicking that with the red line on it. There we go. Hit allow. So now.
Awesome. Looks like it's got my screen.
It's got the whole screen up there.
Okay.
So you just want to pull that up.
And then we'll just pull this up for presentation. Good.
Beautiful.
Okay. Can you all see my screen? Oh, maybe not.
Was anybody else on other than?
Mm-hmm. Send that. Go back. Go
So
here.
click this share button again.
Can you see my screen?
Okay, here's our chat over here. Yep, we can see your screen. Yep.
Okay, but can you
Jennifer said that they can see your screen.
you can they can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, terrific.
Maybe they're just not connected with audio, so I'd say just pull it up.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, I was going to do the presentation without the mask, but in John Rice's honor, I think I'm going to keep this mask on for the entire presentation. Just kidding, John. I'm just kidding because you're giving me a hard time about the mask. Okay. I will go into presentation mode, and I'm just going to assume everybody can hear me. And then I think this is a 20-minute presentation. So I'll try and end about 10:15, leave some time for questions if that is part of the format here. Well, first of all, thanks everybody. I'm going to run quickly through this presentation on Enable and on Infuse. The primary value proposition for Infuse is that we're an alternative to IV infusion, and we apply to biologics, the great majority of all the biologic drugs that you're seeing out there, and anything else that is infused intravenously that is not cytotoxic is a candidate for an infused injector. We specialize in large volumes. I like to say what we don't do is we don't do insulin. That's typically 1 ml and less. And we don't do what I call precision infusions, which again is insulin or something like furosemide, where you need a very precise delivery profile over 12 or 24 hours. What we do is we allow patient self-administration at home of very large volumes of drug, 3 to 50 ml, and very high viscosities. It's an on-body device that's wearable, so you can, once you've applied the device, you can go about your normal daily activities. We also incorporate data monitoring, telehealth, and patient monitoring, and I'm going to show you hopefully this video will work.
Hey, Mike, the audio is not coming through. Looks like in the chat. So if you want to comment sort of on what we just saw.
Okay, I am sorry. The audio is actually there wasn't any audio in that video, so just some music. So that's okay. And I'm assuming that you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, great. So what you saw there was the current standard of care, which is intravenous administration in a healthcare facility. And the problem there is you have tremendous cost. You have a significant cost in terms of resources. You have risk of infectious disease. The risk of infectious disease when you travel to a clinic or a hospital, especially these immunocompromised patients, is a significant multiple of the risk when you self-administer at home. Certainly lack of compliance, loss of the freedom to really plan your life. You know, you have to plan it around a visit to an infusion clinic. Tremendous loss of patient time. We were negotiating with one pharma partner, and their attorney said, "Oh yeah, my associate has to leave every Wednesday afternoon to get her infusion." The patient frequently has to pay out of pocket for these costs, and there's just a significant overall cost to society. So if we look at the challenges that we have today, especially in the current situation that we're in with the crisis that we're looking at, Enable provides some significant benefits, advantages, and really is going to be the future standard of care. Certainly, there is going to be a significant reduction in healthcare expenses. The markups on these drugs, in other words, people complain a lot about how much the pharma companies are making, but they're actually making actually a fraction of what the actual cost to the patient is for this drug administration. So there is a significant opportunity here to reduce healthcare expenses, as I said, minimize patient infectious diseases, significant increase in patient compliance, and you really decrease the stress on the healthcare system, which is, again, in the environment that we're looking at today, is significant. We talked about regaining the patient freedom, reducing adverse events. I can say we have done a number of clinical studies. I'll talk briefly about those. I can't be specific, but I can say we have shown a significant reduction in adverse events. And you're decreasing the overall burden on the healthcare system and society by utilizing our technology. What we do and what you saw there is we take the patient out of the clinic and the hospital and we bring them to their home. What we also do is we take the doctor and the caregiver and we bring them remotely into the patient's home through our smart Infuse. And this is a really significant development. What happens is, and this can be applied not just to the Infuse, but to any injector. What we have as IP is that when the injector is placed on the body, that Band-Aid that you see in the left-hand picture has sensors in it that monitor what the injector is doing. And you have a smartphone which is collecting that information. It's low energy Bluetooth transmission. So the monitor says, okay, the injector's been placed on the body, the safety strip's been removed, the button's been pressed, drug delivery begins, button pops up, drug delivery ends. All this information is transmitted to, let's say, your iPhone, which can then transmit that information to a caregiver, to a pharma partner, to other, to the cloud. The big difference between the smart Infuse and everyone else in connected healthcare is that we decouple the electronic and the sensors from the device upon removal. So the patient is now left with a nice Band-Aid, but it's a smart Band-Aid, and it continues to monitor the patient biometrics, whatever the appropriate biometrics are for that patient, during whatever the appropriate time is for that patient. And it continues to transmit those to, let's say, your iPhone, which then continues to transmit those to, let's say, your healthcare providers. So I can say, this is Dr. Hooven calling to a patient. I call them on their iPhone. They've got their smart Infuse patch on. I can say, Dr. or Mr. Smith, we've noticed that you injected your Humira last night. The injection went well, and it was done at 7:10 p.m. The injected lasted 15 seconds. Everything looked good, but I'm noticing a increase in injection site temperature, and there's a redness at the injection site. Could you show me the site? And you have a telemedicine visit. So this, and pharma companies are now looking at not just, gee, what new drugs can we develop, but they're looking at this entire really infrastructure of the patient, the doctor, the payers, that whole ecosystem. And they're looking at how can we really expand our involvement in that. And so this, and certainly with the current situation that we have with the pandemic, this is just massively important to be able to get the patient out of the clinic, but then to be able to monitor that patient for any potential complications, and to be able to have that communication with, let's say, the oncologist, because the oncologists want to see their patients. They want to connect with their patients. And this actually allows them to do so in a much more efficient way and potentially much more frequently. So again, we have the Infuse delivery. You can deliver it anywhere. You don't require a healthcare provider. It provides a patient with tremendous flexibility. It eliminates the risk of exposure to COVID-19 from visiting an infusion clinic, and there's going to be a significant cost savings to the healthcare infrastructure and healthcare system. The Encompass patient monitoring system gives you real-time continuous monitoring of injection parameters and the appropriate biometric data, communicates back to the healthcare professional, and can then be integrated with telemedicine. So where is Enable Injections right now? We have completed successfully 3 clinical trials, 5 products, 2 major pharma partners, and the results are not just great. They're actually jaw-dropping. All primary endpoints were met. There was a significant reduction in adverse events, improved dosing accuracy when compared to the standard of care that's currently out there. 100% of the patients who used the Infuse said they want to use the Infuse over the currently approved large volume subcutaneous methods of delivery. And another nice outcome is that the partners significantly increased their sales forecasts following these clinical results. So to summarize, we have Enable has top tier pharma partners. We have partnerships with Lilly, Sanofi. Apellis is a terrific partner. We're a startup in Louisville. They're now a $3 billion plus business with a C3 inhibitor competing against Alexion. We believe they have the potential to really disrupt that whole marketplace. Roche Genentech, obviously, and UCB and CSL Behring. This is a healthcare economics study that we did that was quite detailed and rigorous, over 1,000 papers, close to 100 different citations done by one of the firms that the pharma partners use to do these healthcare economic studies. It was actually done on a rheumatoid arthritis IV drug, and it showed $2,000 per patient per month savings. So we have a product that benefits the pharma partner, the patients, the healthcare system, society overall. We have proprietary patient monitoring that allows the doctor to come into the home via telemedicine and get real-time patient biometrics. We provide significant benefits in these areas, and that's why Enable is in the position that we're in now. We are actually telling major pharma partners the restaurant's full. We're going to need to make sure that we meet our commitments to our existing pharma partners before we can take on new pharma partners. And our existing pharma partners are actually giving us additional programs, which is another good sign. So that's the show. I don't know if I can get back onto audio. Hopefully.
That was great, Mike. Thank you. You from what I remember, I think first time I heard you tell the story, though, you also included like the origins of the research and how you guys transitioned into Infusion. Could you share that?
You bet. Yeah, I have. Gosh, I'm just trying to get your picture up here, but I don't see it. So I'll just. I assume you can see me. We started with technology, a concept developed out of Children's Hospital, and Children's Hospital and CincyTech were our two of our founding investors, and then I brought some people in who had been investors in my previous company, and I myself invested as well. And so we started with the children's technology on painless injection for children's vaccine. Could not get an email or a phone call return from any pharma partners. Their question was, how is this going to help us sell more vaccines? So worked on that for about 2 years. And during those 2 years, determined that there was going to be a major market for self-administration of high volume drugs that were being developed and in the pipeline. There's about $200 to $300 billion of those drugs selling today, and there will be some $500 billion by 2027. So it is a massive, massive market. They're currently almost exclusively delivered intravenously. So I said, well, there's a heck of an opportunity here. And in talking with some pharma executives, they agreed in high volume, body-worn injection. And so we pivoted in 2012 and took all of the learnings that we had gained from our work with children's on painless injection and applied that to the Infuse device, which is one of the reasons the patients love it, because it does incorporate all of the learnings that we had that essentially make the injection experience as comfortable as possible for the patient.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Craig Dower in the chat just asked, will physician practices be hesitant to use the product because it will cost them their markup on the drug?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that first part of your question.
Will physician practices be hesitant to use the product because it will cost them their markup on the drug?
Well, that's the primary mode of resistance is certainly going to be if you're a physician and you are prescribing drugs and sending patients to a clinic where you own part of that clinic. That's a serious barrier. That's a barrier that is eventually going to go away. And what's happened due to this pandemic is one executive, pharma executive said, everything that you've been talking about has been fast forwarded 5 to 10 years. So There will certainly be resistance there. We believe there's a couple things that are going to address that. One is we want to be able to say to that physician, okay, you're going to lose that patient time in the infusion clinic. But if that patient's getting an 8.5-hour IV infusion in your clinic, where otherwise they could get a 15-minute infusion subcutaneously at home, you can treat a lot more patients. And we have this patient monitoring telehealth system that allows you to communicate and engage with more patients, and the outcomes and compliance should be better. So from an overall healthcare standpoint, there's certainly going to be a lot of that cost savings is going to be around all of the overhead and personnel associated with delivering these drugs IV. But we do believe that, from a physician standpoint and from an overall healthcare standpoint, we're going to be able to provide them with significantly higher throughput in terms of patients, significantly higher compliance. The other thing is this goes back to my Ethicon endosurgery days when I was at a conference with a few hundred surgeons, and we had we were doing pig labs and dozens of pigs, and on endoscopic first days of endoscopic surgery, and I talked to the surgeon next to me, and I just said, hey, what brings you here? And he said, I hate doing this surgery. I think it's ridiculous, but if I don't learn it, the practice down the street is going to get all my business. So that is another consideration. If you have one person prescribing the Infuse to their patients and another doctor prescribing that they go to infusion clinics, there's going to be significant pressure on that doctor to convert.
Well, thank you, Mike, very much for joining us this morning. For anybody in the audience